Hello, stepping out the comfort zone again. I don't know if I've ever worn something orange on video before, and it's quite a recent experience. But this realm, this experience is all about stepping out of the comfort zones. It's something I did last week. I did the unthinkable. I looked at the first 10 videos on this channel, and wow, do I look nervous on that. And it's like how it's changed from that perspective, where it's sort of second nature just to sort of vent out. I'm sort of basically talking to myself. We're all reflections of each other anyway. So rather than sort of keep it all within and that feeling like you're going to explode, it's a way of releasing it out. I've also found that art is another fantastic way to express and to transmute, to get things out rather than let them cause sort of internal chaos and conflict in the mind, and so on, conflict between the mind and the body. I had a very good comment on the first part of the last two videos talking about archaics, and something that came up in conversation yesterday with Julia in a Zoom chat meeting, how expressions like go within, die unto yourself, and similar expressions, if you're coming from a perspective where that is all new, that's sort of totally inadequate, no explanation. So it's something I'd like to sort of address in this video, because it is all about perspectives. So for example, if I was to use the term health and safety, or for security reasons, they're two that you'll often possibly hear in that external material world. Actually, even that, the term the external material world, that is basically anything that is outside of you. So from my perspective at this moment, talking into this phone, this room, and anything beyond that is external of this being. So health and safety, for security reasons, terms and conditions. There's another one, it'll come back to me in a minute. But, oh yes, what's the other one? Information technology, that's another term that's used. Now, how do you hear those terms, like health and safety? Do you ask yourself, well, whose health and safety, or do you readily assume it is referring to you? For security reasons is another one. Is it for your security, for your safety, or is it for something else, external of you? Terms and conditions. Well, in what context? Terms is time, and conditions, what sort of conditions are we talking about? Similarly, if you walk into a room, you may have heard or even thought or said the expression, oh, there's an atmosphere in here. That one is more readily understood, that we're not talking about oxygen, it's talking about an emotional charge, energy that you sort of pick up on if there'd been, say, an argument between two other people, not even a word said. So information technology, I would imagine that many of you will straight away readily think of computers. But am I coming from a perspective where I'm even talking about computers? In this context, no. I'm actually talking about these human bodies being a technology, a design, and information is what we gather from the external realm and what we process inside. It's also another term that now comes to mind is the system, the process. You have a system for digesting food, for example, and it is processed through the human body. Hopefully, what is not needed is expelled rather than accumulated in the body. So, to die unto yourself, you'll actually consist of two parts in this sense. You have your lower I conscious, the bit that is convincing you that you are the physical body, for example, whereas the higher consciousness is that sort of intuition, that guide, that communication that we have to learn to master the communication with. Incidentally, in the astrology at the moment, Adrian Elise mentions about, Mercury has gone into, I can't even remember if it's gone into retrograde or it's moved over with the Sun and Venus. But anyway, Mercury is all about communication, and it's, in this context, think of it as internal communication, because the astrology is the macro that is basically reflecting what is going on internally. So to die unto yourself is where you hand over the controls of yourself. You become the observer of yourself. In a physical sense, if you can imagine that you're sitting in a chair, but your sort of awareness, you can sort of picture giving yourself like a sort of an outline of a human shape, and you basically go behind and stand behind yourself, and you're looking through the back of the head, as it were. A lot of this, with this going down this what is called a spiritual path and doing this internal work, it becomes quite clear that words are quite inadequate. So, taking this, when we look at Genesis, it's readily pointed out about chapter 1 in Genesis, the Adam, male and female, he created them. And then later on it says about a rib being taken from Adam to create Eve. Now, if you read that from an internal perspective, and as Ken Wheeler says, you are the consubstantiality of spirit and matter. So there are actually two births going on. You've got the birth of the physical, that which was formed from earth, from the clay, as it were. These physical bodies to have an experience in this physical realm. Now you have the second birth. Another expression of this would be immaculate conception, because it's something coming from the metaphysical that is connecting with the physical. Now, a lot of people won't agree with what I'm about to say, but I can only talk from a personal experience, or an experience of what I perceive as being a memory, because I have to question as to how much is sort of conjured up inside, as it were, how much is an actual experience. Do these things become blurred in the mind? Are we clear in our memory, for example, and are we talking about the memory from the lower conscious aspect, or are we talking about more of a soul memory? So my experience would say that this immaculate conception, this joining of matter and spirit, actually happens inside the womb. Now, a lot of people will say it's when you take that first breath as a physical being and the spirit comes in. I would have to disagree with that, purely because I have this memory of an experience of being in the womb. As I've said before, that feeling when the world feels like it is closing in around you, and later on you learn that it's not the world closing in around you, you are getting too big for that particular world, and then you have to come into the light, into this external realm. You can't stay there, you can't dwell in anything. One of the videos that I look back at, I've described this as, if you see in nature, you have say a tree, and over what we perceive as linear time, the hours of the day, the sun will keep moving. So that shadow is turning on that tree. The sun is not staying fixed in a single location, so it's not going to act like a magnifying glass with an intense heat in one spot. It keeps moving. Likewise, on our spiritual path, we have to keep moving. We have to step out of our comfort zone. Now, this is a personal observation of self that I have. If I just step outside this building, I have a grassed area, I can go and do yoga. But I'm also aware that I'm inherently lazy and can't be bothered. And obviously the lower eye will say, oh, it's raining, it's not very warm, you don't really want to go out there, stay indoors. I am fully aware of that, and it is something I do need to address. Certainly no fear of standing out there and doing yoga on my own and thought of people laughing at me or whatever. I don't really care, because I will be in a world of my own anyway. So yeah, I should go out there more often. I really must do something about that. But these things land in your lap as well. You'll find more and more. This journey gets easier and easier. The expression about the shortening of days, that is almost like this boomerang effect that seems to come more and more, where you put out a desire into the universe, whatever you want to call it, and the things come back sort of fairly quick. So the thought of, I would like some more flowers, and then the buzzer goes, these are from a food bank. So what they're intended to do, yeah, they're a little bit past the best, but I can appreciate these roses. Everything is finite in this reality, doesn't last forever, so at least those roses being grown with the intention that they're going to be displayed and appreciated are now fulfilling that role. I've given those roses, and it's a reciprocal arrangement because I get pleasure from seeing those. It's also a beautiful confirmation from the universe, because it only took about 30 minutes from having that, I wish I had some more flowers, and then they appear. It's not the first time I've mentioned about that in these videos, but it's just another confirmation. So the landing in the lap, I put this up as a community post, and I've actually tried this now, and I'm referring to Lana A La Bonte's video. It's got a 3-minute meditation, so you're basically doing... She goes right through it about how you want to keep your ears and shoulders, you don't want your head up or down, you want to be sort of in line, your spine is in line, so you can do it in a sitting position, so it suits my inherent laziness. I haven't got to go outside, and therefore it's also something that I can do all the time. So what I've decided to do, because this felt right to me to do this, so I thought, let's go with it, let's run with this. And it's a 3-minute meditation. It's you keep the, I can't say it and do it, but you keep the mouth in an O shape, and you do this breathing, and you're doing like sort of backstrokes, and wow, do you feel energized after it? That's from just doing it once. I said in a comment to Lana that I'm going to do this for the next 21 days. So I'll probably do a follow-up video, because that is not something external that I can surmise or give an opinion on. This is something, the only thing that I can ever talk about, personal experience. So I'm going to put myself through that experience. I've decided what suits me, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or round about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll make it part of my sort of daily practice, and it follows that same blueprint of learning to walk, or anything else you do in this physical reality, where you have the desire to do something and sheer determination, not giving up, not giving in to doubt. Imagine if you, when you were learning to walk, and the first time you fell over and you said, "Oh, sod that, that hurts, I'm not doing that again," where would you be now? So, you, hopefully from that, you can see the blueprint and the pattern with everything to do with this experience. And of course, there's all this whole thing of perspectives. So, I don't know, have I explained the go within sufficiently? You tell me, because the words are inadequate. I can share experiences as I go through them as well. That's another thing. So going back to like the last 10 videos, now a lot of people I've spoken to, and I said, you've got a phone, record yourself, not to publish or share in public, but just do it, which is what everything about this spiritual journey is about. You're doing it for yourself. You're overcoming doubts and fears, objections of the mind, the lower I that says, "Oh no, I'd feel really uncomfortable or embarrassed at looking at myself on a video." That's something to overcome. I know it doesn't suit everybody. It's just an example I can give because I've gone through this experience. As I've said several times over the videos, if someone had said to me, say 20 or 30 years ago, "You'll be doing this," and I would have said, "No way." One, because I wouldn't have the concept of it, and two, I wouldn't be prepared to take that leap of faith. Which brings me on to another part, which was sort of formulating in the mind that I wanted to say in this video. We're already up to 17 minutes. But anyway, I'll try and keep this brief, but I feel this is really important. Neville Goddard talks about this as falling back into the dream. So in the metaphysical, it would be like standing on the edge of the cliff and just launching yourself off with that confidence that before you actually hit the ground, that there's going to be like an invisible hand that is going to catch you and you're going to come to no harm. Now, if you can do lucid dreaming, and again, this is something Neville Goddard basically talks about. I don't know if he actually uses that terminology, but the lucid dreaming where you take control of that dream state, where in an instant you can just go, like, click your fingers and you can pause everything around you. You are aware that it is a dream, so you're conscious within the dream, and you can just stop everything because you are in control of that whole dream. Now, I would imagine a lot of people have had the experience where you get that sort of, that sudden jolt when you're almost asleep and the conscious mind is not, it's still engaged. So it sort of pulls you back out. That's what the jolt is, as far as I can tell. Again, I can only talk from experience of this, but yeah, that horrible sort of, you're laying in bed and you get that boom, and you're suddenly awake again because it's bringing you back, because somewhere deep inside there's one, it's not mastering the control of the dream with the lucid dreaming, and two, there's obviously something deep inside that is like a natural lower conscious fight or fight protection mode that's kicking in, because if it was in the physical, I, I would imagine that 99 point whatever percent would not jump off a bridge or a building with that much confidence that they're not going to go splat. I'm not saying I could either. I'm not going to put it to the test. Certainly not at this stage. But that's another thing. When the spiritual, what is called the spiritual journey or the spiritual awakening first begins, that's a question that's often asked. When did it all first begin? For me, I would say it was that sort of awareness that the world is closing in and that sort of memory of being in a womb. It's on an older video where I talked about this. The sort of thumbnail is just basically a pink sort of colour screen, because I wanted to give a sort of visual sort of representation as close as I could to what you sort of see, as it were, in the womb. So, where was I going with this? The train of thought has gone again. Yeah, so this going within, one of the earliest signs, actually, I'm going to leave it here because we're up to 21 minutes. This is almost like a separate subject in itself about stages of awakening. So I'll come back to this in a subsequent video. So I will say love to you all and ta-ta for now. And let me know what you think. Let me know if that makes sense, because this whole truth-seeking, this whole looking at the external world, really is just a distraction. It's a spirit. I'm just going to end with this. It's a spiritual war. That's one way it's described. Now think of it from a perspective of warfare. Are you going to put your infantry in without the artillery cover? Are you going to leave your infantry unprotected? By that I mean, if you're starting to walk the spiritual path, but you have doubt and fear, you have left your infantrymen exposed, and you're going to make this journey probably where you won't make it, because the doubts and fears will consume you and it will hold you back. It will become a limitation. So please keep that in mind, and I'll talk about more about this on the next video. This is like a continuation of this essential internal work. So we'll come back to that in the next video. So once again, love to you all, and hopefully this makes sense. Let me know in the comments, and if you want me to expand further, which I'm going to do in the next video. But any points you want me to try and address from my own experiences, I will. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know, because I'm not going to second guess. I can give you an idea as, well, I have a feeling it is like this, and I will actually say it that way. Or I think it is like this, but if I don't know, I'm not going to try and bluff it and say I've done it when I haven't. It will show through in the energy anyway. Nothing can hide. Anybody who thinks that spirit can't permeate through Wi-Fi, well, you really need to do some inner work. So, love to you all.